Okay, Stacy, I'm sorry about the technical glitches. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah.
This is Marcy's Law interview series, Why We Do What We Do. And I am just so grateful that you were able to join us today to tell us about the Tennessee initiative in the Secretary of State's office, started by the Secretary of State, Trey Hargett. Could you tell us a little bit about the Safe at Home initiative?
So the Safe at Home Address Confidentiality Program, we specifically work with victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, and stalking. And what we do for victims is if they qualify for our program, we have the ability to issue them a substitute address that they can use for all legal purposes. In doing so, they then have the ability as victims to access all of the state and local government services that they need without disclosing their home address to someone who could make it a matter of public record or put it in a document where someone could see it.
Now, this is really an innovative program for a Secretary of State's office that was begun by Trey Hargett, and you are the person that was given the responsibility, and it was given to you. You had an empty office and a copy of the law. That's how it all started. Tell us a
Yes,
little bit about
yes.
how Secretary of State Hargett found out about it and introduced the concept to you, and then ultimately to the state of Tennessee.
So Secretary Hargett had attended, to my understanding, a Secretary of State conference, a nationwide conference, where he had heard other Secretary of States talking about their address confidentiality programs, which piqued his interest. The state of Tennessee did not have anything that covered address confidentiality, so he then came back to our state, started looking at the victims' rights that we had here as far as address confidentiality goes, saw that there was a huge gap in our protection for victims, and then very quickly proceeded to get this law drafted and passed through our state legislature so that we would have addressed confidentiality for victims within the state of Tennessee.
And you were really a perfect fit for this based on your bio. Number one, you know the state pretty well. I think you were an eighth generation Tennessean.
Ninth, I have found another generation now. So I'm
Oh,
now ninth generation Tennessean.
okay,
So
ninth since the last time we spoke. And so, well, and the other thing is you've been involved in public service in the state of Tennessee. You started with Governor Haslam doing constituent services, and then were you the first constituent service coordinator for the Department of Veterans?
I was. When I stepped into that role, Tennessee Department of Veteran Services did not have a constituent services department. This was back in 2011, beginning of 2011. So I stepped in and got their constituent services department up and running and off the ground for them, so that they could effectively communicate with veterans across the state of Tennessee.
Yeah, and kind of consistent with your bio, and you also have a master's degree in conflict management. Now,
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about how that has helped you. That plus the fact that you are a mediator, a civil family mediator in the administrative
Mhm.
office of the courts in Tennessee. Tell us a little bit about how that part of your background helps you when dealing with victims who are forced to make decisions either while they are experiencing trauma or while they are under trauma.
When you're working with victims who are dealing with this level of trauma, the trauma-informed care component of this is extremely important. I would say at this point in our program, at least 75% or more of our safe at home participants are attempting to co-parent with their offenders. In doing so, we're dealing with a lot of family court issues, a lot of parenting plans, a lot of visitation issues. So having a background in doing parenting plans, I've actually done parenting plans for families that involves domestic violence. I'm kind of coming to the table with an understanding of what they're dealing with and the complexities of the decisions that they're having to make regarding the visitation of their children and the disclosure of addresses and how the courts view these sorts of things. So it's having an understanding of that language, of what these victims are dealing with as they are navigating the Safe at Home program at the same time. I was doing parenting plans as a family mediator before the Safe at Home law passed. So I saw firsthand the complexities that victims were dealing with in trying to deal with domestic violence issues while trying to set up a visitation schedule for their kids. It's very complex. So,
Yeah, and we here at Marcy's Law, that's why we have found so many great partnering agencies in the state of Tennessee, in the people of Tennessee, since we've started working to try to get Marsy's Law passed in Tennessee, have been so helpful. And we've really learned a lot from all of the innovative programs that the state of Tennessee um, has implemented to help victims and on behalf of victims. And one of the things that the components that we've always been very concerned with is confidentiality for victims, especially in the charges and the crimes that you have laid out. Can you tell us a little bit about what the eligibility requirements are? I know you said you were given an empty office and a copy of the law.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, what are, I think there's a two-prong eligibility requirement.
Mhm. There is. So there's only two statutory requirements that need to be met. The first is that we're looking at, is this victim at an address that we can protect? Tennessee has something, kind of a backstory here. Tennessee has something called TPRA, which is the Tennessee Public Records Act. Through TPRA, most state and local government records are accessible for public inspection and copying if somebody requests that information. So when you're thinking about your driver's license, your public utilities, your voter registration, court records, all of that's a matter of public record. So what we look at for our victims is, are they at an address that is not already associated with their name in public records? So have they moved within the last 30 days, or are they intending to move to a new address that we can protect? Or are they at an address that has not been associated with their name in public records? So for example, if I have fled a domestic violence situation and I'm staying with family members, but I've never used that address on my driver's license or to vote, that's a safe address that we can protect. So once we establish that somebody is at an address that we can protect, we then want to establish how are they a victim of either domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, or stalking, either through past or present court records, an order of protection, or we have a third option that allows any licensed professional to write a statement that they believe that the person is a victim and could potentially be in danger of further harm. So those are the only two requirements we're looking at. Are they at an address that we can protect, and are they a victim?
And a couple of things to build on that a little bit. This is not just when you talk about domestic violence situations, this is not just intimate partner situations, correct?
That is correct. So we cover parent-child abuse, elder abuse, disability abuse, professional abuse, falls under stalking. So I've had law enforcement officers reach out to me and ask about participating in this program, court officers, those who work in the healthcare field. So stalking is not just an intimate partner problem. It happens with strangers as well. Same thing with domestic violence. It's not just intimate partners. So we look at each individual situation when a victim reaches out to us to see which one of these categories they're going to fit into, and to see if safe at home is appropriate to make a part of their overall safety plan.
And this isn't just physical danger that they are or could be experiencing either, correct?
Well, no, when you're talking about potential danger, is that physical danger? Is it emotional danger? Is it mental? Is it financial? So there's a lot of different ways someone can be harmed other than just through physical violence.
And when you talk about this is just one component of a
Mhm,
safety plan. Tell us a
mhm.
little bit about how you stress when you speak with victims the importance of having this be part of building an overall safety plan.
When we enroll participants into the Safe at Home program, we do provide them with some literature so that they can think about not only state and local government records and how those records can be accessed, but also how are they handing out their address to other people who potentially might make it a matter of public record, like stores when you buy things and getting Kroger cards and things like that. How are they interacting with people on social media? Are they posting a lot of things that could disclose their location if somebody were to be following them on social media? So we not only want to look at state and local government records, but as they're putting together that safety plan, they want to look at all of the different ways they're sharing their information with different private entities that could potentially make that information a matter of public record.
And the address that is given to the victims through your program, that's not just a PO box.
It is not. We have a physical address in the state of Tennessee that we use because if since we have a physical address, they can actually use our address on their driver's license. So when someone is in the Safe at Home program, they have a physical address that they are using as their legal address for pretty much all purposes. There's a couple of exceptions, but for the most purposes, they're using the safe at home address. It is a local address here in Nashville. And so no matter where you live statewide, if you're in Memphis or if you're in Johnson City, you are all using the exact same safe at home address.
And so how does it work mechanically then with that address? Where does that mail go?
So as someone starts using the safe at home address, their mail is going to start coming to that safe at home address, which is a government office here in Nashville. We will then receive all of their mail for them. As a safe at home participant, we know their confidential addresses. We know where they are physically located. We then repackage their mail for them unopened and we forward it to them at their confidential addresses. This gives them the ability to access all state and local government services without ever telling anyone where they are.
Which is really important, and they
Mhm.
they can also accept service of process through that address as well.
Yes, we can. So if someone is expecting divorce papers or a subpoena or anything like that from the courts, because they are using our substitute address, the courts don't know where they are. So unlike a normal service of process where a sheriff would knock on your door and serve you with court paperwork, we are taking that service of process here at the Secretary of State's office on behalf of our participants. We then serve the participants through our office in a confidential manner.
Now, one of the things that you and I talked about, Stacy, is how when people are experiencing trauma or people have been victimized and they have to navigate the criminal justice system,
Mhm.
uh, it is there are so many different components to it. And like you were saying, and based on your background, you understand and appreciate the importance of dealing with people who have just experienced trauma. And it's very, very tough to be able to make decisions in any kind of environment, let alone the overwhelming criminal justice system where things move so fast, especially in the
Mhm.
very beginning, and then they move frustratingly at a very slow pace as the case winds its way through court. Um, how do you help these victims work alongside the different partnering agencies? Is there a component of that in your program at all?
There is, and I think communication is key. Um, I let my participants know from day one that they can call us at any time. When someone gets into the Safe at Home program, there's usually a flurry of activity within about the first 30 days where they're getting a new driver's license, they're re-registering their vehicles under our address. They're doing a lot of different things like putting their children into school under our address. So there's a lot of activity that's happening. And for our participants, it's important for them to know that they can call our office at any time and speak with me directly to know that they can get assistance in navigating those processes as they are going through them. And they're not just having to figure this out on their own. We're here to support them all along the way. We also provide them with a lot of handouts and brochures and things that they can provide for state and local government agencies as they're coming into contact with them. But number one component is just communication to make sure that they know that we are here and that we hear the struggles that we are having and that we're here to support them through that process.
And when you're talking about helping them and walking alongside them as they navigate the system with the different partnering agencies, um, you and your office and you as the program coordinator are in charge of all 95 counties in the state of Tennessee and over
We
7.
do have 95 counties. Tennessee's a big state. Yeah.
And as far as the partnering agencies go, um, you and I were talking about the amount. There's close to what 150 partnering agencies that you work with, from DAs to law enforcement. Tell us a little bit about the partnering agencies, some of the major partnering agencies that you work with.
So our partnering agencies across the state, we have them serving all 95 counties, our family justice centers, law enforcement offices, housing agencies. I work a lot with the child support offices, the children's justice centers. One that specifically that I work with down in Memphis is the Shelby County Crime Victim and Rape Crisis Center. Here in Davidson County, we have the Metro Office of Family Safety, which I do believe is the largest family safety center in the country. So we have a lot of partnering agencies across the state. At each one of my partnering agencies, I personally train application assistants to sit down with these victims in person in their communities where they live and step them through these applications. The partnering agency then submits that application to me so that I can make make sure not only am I here to help them, but they have someone in their community to help them step through this application as well. Because I'm in Nashville, and if somebody in Memphis needs one of these applications done, I want to make sure that somebody is there with them, helping them through that application process, so that it can get submitted and processed in a timely manner.
And as far as the partnering agencies that you work with, um, I would think that each one of them has their own challenges as far as raising awareness goes. Now,
Mm-hmm.
when you're talking about your Safe at Home initiative, I just think of you starting out with an empty office and a copy of the law. And
Mm-hmm.
what have you done since Safe at Home initiative has started? And
Mm-hmm.
tell us a little bit about the challenges, because this is such a, number one, it's an incredibly innovative program, and number two, it is so important as far as protection of these
Mm-hmm.
of these of the most vulnerable people in the state of Tennessee. But you can't avail yourself of it if you don't know anything about it. What
Mm-hmm.
have you done since you started? What are the challenges, and what are you doing now to raise awareness?
When I first stepped into the program, we had no partnering agencies. We had no certified application assistants. We had no participants. So, from my mindset, from coming from a conflict management and a family mediation background, and from a legal background where I had worked as well, what I looked at was starting out and saying, okay, if I was a victim in a specific county in Tennessee and I needed assistance, who would I go to? And I literally did that with all 95 counties. I just sat down and looked at each individual county and said, what resources are available here? If I were a victim and I needed food, if I needed housing, if I needed clothing, if I needed domestic violence services, who would I call? And I just started calling every one of those organizations in every county statewide and establishing training for the organization and getting at least one or two people certified as an application assistant at each one of those organizations. That is an ongoing process where I'm constantly pulling in new partnering agencies and retraining partnering agencies as there are staff turnovers, those sorts of things. One of the challenges that we do have being in such a big state and also with domestic violence organizations is there's not a domestic violence organization or a trafficking organization in every county because we have some smaller rural counties. So we do have some partnering agencies that cover very large areas of the state that will cover 5, 10, 15 counties. One agency will have coverage for that. So it's not only making sure that we have a domestic violence organization trained, but then the areas where we do not have those direct victims resources about finding alternate resources such as housing authorities and the child support offices and things like that, where we can get application assistance trained and provide information about safe at home and then reroute those victims to the domestic violence organizations so that they can get those wraparound services and those safety plans and get their safe at home applications done and submitted to our office.
And it must be as difficult as it is. I'm sure it's very rewarding for you and for your program
Mhm.
and for the Secretary of State and the Secretary of State's office, knowing the amount of people that you help and quite frankly that you
Mhm.
protect, and lives that you
Mhm.
affect and lives that you save. Um, do you stay in touch with some of the people? And that must be very heartwarming. Some of the people, and some. Can you share with us a couple of or at least one of the stories
Mhm.
of someone that you've worked with and helped out?
Mhm. Yeah, I do stay in touch with the participants on a fairly regular basis. I talk to my participants a lot. They text me on a regular basis because they all have my cell phone number. That's how accessible I am to all of my participants. They can text me at any time. But I do get cards from participants here at the program talking about how much they love Safe at Home and about how it does give them a sense of security in their homes, not worrying that someone is just going to show up at any time. I also work with participants as they're moving out of state. Sometimes when they leave our program and they go to another state, helping them connect with our partnering programs across the United States and them letting us know, how much they appreciated Tennessee's program while they were here and how they are able to make those easy transitions as they are moving in and out of Tennessee. But as far as the victims here in Tennessee go, I talk to my participants all the time, because not only do we handle, like I said, all of their mail and we're giving them that substitute address, we're also handling all of their voting as well. If you wish to vote confidentially in the state of Tennessee, the only way that you can do that is if you're a safe at home participant. So as the election season is ramping up, I'm speaking with a lot of my participants, making sure everyone's properly registered to vote and that they know what that procedure is. So my participants are calling me on a fairly regular basis to let me know just how things are going in their lives. I had a call just the other day. A woman was calling to tell me about a conviction that had taken place. And it's not information that we need for her to be in this program, but she just wanted us to know that that had happened and that that was a huge milestone in her moving forward and with her victim status. And she wanted the Safe at Home program to know that we contributed to her being able to navigate that and to feel safe while she was doing so. So it makes my heart feel good to know that my participants kind of not just see us as a government agency, but they see us as friends that they can call and that they can communicate with about things that are going on, and that they know that not only are we helping them with all of this, but if they need a resource, they can call me, and I've usually got a number I can give them, and I can do a soft handoff to another agency if they need something, instead of them trying to find those resources that they need. The partnering agency that list that I've developed across the state of Tennessee has become a wonderful resource, not only for safe at home information, but for other resources as well, because I've connected with all of these different agencies in each county. So I know where all the resources are now. So I do get calls on a fairly regular basis from my participants saying, hey, I know you don't do this, but I need this. Can you help me? And I've usually got a phone number I can give them so that they can get the resource that they need.
Yeah, and the follow up and the outreach and the consistent outreach from the people
Mhm.
that you work with is a real tribute to you and to the Secretary of State, and your
Yeah.
whole organization, because they know that you care about them. You weren't, like you said, it wasn't just a government agency. It wasn't just a quick referral. These are
Mhm.
people that know that you're invested in their well-being, in their success, and empowering them. So that's a real tribute to you, and it must inspire you every day to continue to do what you do. Um, I had another when it comes to your office and the Secretary of State's office specifically, one of the programs, the other programs that you told me that they just started after a law was passed recently in the last legislative cycle is Tennessee Businesses Against Trafficking, against human trafficking. Before we wrap up, can you tell me a little bit about that program?
Yeah, so Tennessee Businesses Against Human Trafficking is a new program that just launched this legislative session. Lydia Doss is spearheading that program with the Secretary of State's office, but she is connecting directly with businesses all across the state of Tennessee, and they are taking training on recognizing human trafficking and human trafficking awareness so that they can partner with the Secretary of State's office and partnering agencies across the state to identify human trafficking as it is happening and to know how to properly report those instances when they see them.
Yeah, well, I just want to thank you on behalf of Marcy's Law. We, as you know, we've been in Tennessee,
Mhm.
starting the process to get Marcy's Law passed in Tennessee so that the victims and the citizens of Tennessee can have meaningful, enforceable constitutional rights as victims.
Mhm.
We have now passed the House and the Senate in the first legislative cycle. We have to do it in one more legislative cycle and then get it on the ballot. Um, but we will be working with you and the Secretary of State's office to help raise awareness, to help protect victims, and to help you could continue to do the important work that you do. And we really look forward to staying as
Mhm.
one of your partners and resources as we go forward.
Well, thank you so much. It is so important for all of those who are working in the victim realm to be supporting one another. There's so much cross-pollination that happens with all of these programs. We're all here to support one another. And ultimately, the more we're supporting one another, the more we're supporting these victims and making sure that those safety plans that they are building are as robust as possible and providing them with as much protection as possible.
Yeah, I will say personally, since we've started our work in Tennessee, it really is amazing to see the incredible work and the real angels that are involved in this work across the state of Tennessee. We have been blessed to have met and worked with some of the most incredibly committed and dedicated people and selfless people, and it's a real blessing for us to be able to be taking part in the great work that you guys do in Tennessee. So thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Tennessee is a wonderful state. I'm very proud to be here working with this program and to just be a Tennessean. My family's been here, like I said, for 9 generations, so we're getting comfortable.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you for being so generous with your time, and please thank the Secretary of State for all the great
I
work and
will.
education that he does too.
All right, thank you.
Thanks so much, Stacy.